Welcome to this Ubuntu Project video facilitated by Zentertainment Enterprises. Be sure to like and subscribe if you learned something new. Now, onto the video.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Kevin Patterson, and welcome to this four-part series about holistic wellness and how it pertains to our mental health. I'm so excited to be here with you. So let's kick off this first session as we talk about the foundations of holistic wellness and what it is. Like I said, my name is Dr. Kevin Patterson. I am a psychologist, and I'm located here in Hawaii. And I've been practicing psychology for over 16 years, and I absolutely love the concept of holistic health and mindfulness and how we can create the best versions of ourselves. And so this course is going to go into setting the stage for what is holistic well-being and why should we care about it, how would we define it, and then ultimately, how does it pertain to increasing our mental health? Today's goal is to create working definitions for us to work through the remaining 3 videos, but to also help you understand tangible things you could do every day that would increase our mental health, our well-being, and our sense of just overall satisfaction and fulfillment in life. So what is holistic wellness? If you've ever heard the phrase mind, body, spirit, we see it as a connection between what's going on inside of our head, how it feels inside of our body, and how we connect to the world at large. And whenever we treat these as individual things, we start to separate or compartmentalize everything out and not see our wellness as one holistic, comprehensive, integrated system. And so bringing that back in, that's the definition that we're going to use, is nurturing the mind, body, and spirit in a very balanced way. And so there's 4 pillars of holistic wellness that we're going to focus on in this video to set the stage. The first one is our physical wellness, and this is referring to anything that has to do with the strength of our body. And so think things like nutrition, exercise, rest, and how we also avoid things that might cause harm to our physical body. So staying away from things that we know aren't good for us, or at least exercising moderation. And so anything that deals with our body and how we are situated on the earth, that's going to be tackled with our physical holistic wellness component. The second one is our mental. And so this is everything that has to do with our stress and how we learn new skills, what goes on inside of our head, how we can reframe thoughts into positive thinking. And so we can focus on this whenever we really start to bring the things that are inside of our head, inside of our heart, out into the open. And so we'll deal a lot with this one in this one, as well as coming sessions, about how to get everything that's inside out. The third one is the emotional wellness component. And this pillar is really about understanding our feelings. It involves identifying big emotions, as well as learning to express them in appropriate ways that show us that we can overcome the hurdles of life that are very unavoidable. And so this is how we feel inside of our heart. And how do we let our emotions out in ways that help us become the best versions of ourselves? And then fourth, the spiritual wellness pillar. This one is about discovering and rediscovering our purpose in life, the bigger meaning. Why are we put here? And are we exercising our gifts in ways that make us feel fulfilled, but also help the world at large? And so it might involve religion, it might not, but it can also involve very personalized spiritual practices such as meditation and doing anything that brings and cultivates better inner peace. So today we're going to really dive into the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual wellness that whenever we look at these as a whole, this is what creates balance in our life. And chances are, if we ever have those moments in life where we feel a little off kilter or things feel a little unsafe or we're not as fulfilled, chances are we can look at one of these and identify, here's where I'm off. And the idea would be not to punish ourselves or to label things as good, bad, right, or wrong, but to understand what can I do from a daily routine, a daily, weekly, monthly routine to bring myself into greater balance. So as we go through these, start to assess and see, am I doing this component well? Is this pillar strong for me? Or do I need to develop this more? And chances are this will give you a nice roadmap for how you can achieve your highest fulfillment. So let's start with our pillar of physical. So with our physical, we've got things like exercise. And I know in our head, we cognitively know that exercise is good for us. However, check in. Do we do it often? Do you get at least 20 to 30 minutes of movement each day? And if not, start to assess what kind of exercise brings you joy. And so for me personally, I really like yoga. And so I'm a yoga instructor on the side. here in Hawaii, and I love to teach yoga. I love to help people love yoga the way that I love yoga. And so for me, I can do yoga for hours a day and it not feel like I'm exercising. However, if I put my running shoes on and start running down the street, I could get 5 minutes in and hate it. And so part of exercise, and a good tip, is to find an activity that you like. So whether it's lifting weights, whether it's walking, whether it's swimming or yoga like me, we want to make sure that we're always keeping our heart healthy, our muscles flexible, and that we're building strong bones as we age. And so exercise is the biggest thing that we can do for that. A second thing that we can do to really take control of our physical wellness piece of this is our rest. And so rest involves sleep. It involves our sleep health. Are we getting not only 6 to 8 hours of sleep a night, but are we getting restful sleep? Are we staying asleep? Or are we getting up and playing on our phones in the middle of the night? Are we doing things that are causing us not to go deep into our sleep? And ways that we can also bring in more restful sleep hygiene, like listening to podcasts or meditation that causes us to come down, slow down, turning off our phones. These are ways that we can get extra sleep. But we can also say this component is about taking breaks during the day too, because during the day, our minds need to rest, our bodies need to rest. So we can't just be machines and go, go, go and burn ourselves out. So during the day, are you taking small breaks and just maybe going for a walk or reading a book or listening to your favorite song or calling a friend? And we want to prioritize that because we do need to give ourselves those moments of recharge so that we can come back stronger and better. The third piece is the healthy diet. Now, I'm not a licensed nutritionist or a dietitian, so I don't want to give you any specific nutrition advice, but I will say intuitively, we know good foods versus unhealthy foods. We know better choices versus not so good choices. And the idea here is to stick to foods that make us feel energetic, that keep us full. And so we don't snack and eat junk food and do the, bad food habits like sneaking food at night or staying up late eating, that we can do things that help us, again, feel better in our bodies and keep our brains nice and sharp, keep our muscles growing. And our diet plays a big, big, big piece of it. So check in with this and just sense, how am I doing here? How's my physical wellness? Do I need to improve my exercise? Do I need to get more rest? Do I need to create some rules with my diet? Or am I doing all these things great? And if so, you might have a lot of balance in this area. And if you do, fantastic. But if not, let's see if we can figure out one of these things that you could work on and see if it makes you feel better in your physical body. The next one is our mental health and our mental wellness in this holistic approach. And I've just shown here with visuals 4 quick things that you can do and the benefits of working on this mental piece. And the first one is to reduce stress. And we want to minimize as much stress as we can in our life because stress produces hormones in our body that keep us in this active fight or flight moment, and it's just not sustainable. It keeps us hypervigilant. It keeps us always looking over our shoulder. And we really do keep ourselves in an agitated state when we can't manage our stress. And so this could be people, this could be environments, this could be things that you do in your day that you might not realize this is adding stress to my life. And we might need to set boundaries that keep those people and places at bay, or at least keep them out of our waking hours so that we can have more calm days. And so do your best to reduce your stress as much as possible. The second one is practicing mindfulness. And mindfulness is a key that we're going to spend a lot of time on in subsequent episodes of this series. But mindfulness is essentially being very aware of all of your senses. And so even where you're sitting right now, if I were to ask you to look around the room and see if you can identify favorite colors in the room, can you see objects that you like? How many things can you name and list? This brings us to the present moment, and we're not worried about the past, worried about the future, but we're here now looking at our space. And so mindfulness is where we can become aware of the sounds, the smells, the tastes, what we can touch, and what we can see. And that keeps us here now. A third one is meditation. And meditation is a fantastic tool to slow our breathing down, slow our mind down, and just sit and be with ourselves. You can do guided meditations. You can do various types of meditations for 3 minutes all the way up to an hour if you'd like. But meditation is a great way to teach our body to calm down. So when we're in our car in traffic, we're not stressed, wanting to cut people off, we can tap into that mental clarity that teaches us to calm down. And the fourth one is to stimulate your mind. And this is by learning something new or taking on risks finding new hobbies, things that bring you joy. A few years ago, I got the bright idea that I wanted to learn a new language. And so I downloaded Duolingo on my phone, and I decided that I was going to learn Italian. And I got really far into it, and I had so much fun. And what's fun is I learned how interconnected Italian is to other world languages like Spanish, and I was able to connect with people in my environment a lot more by using language as a tool. And so it kept me sharp, it kept me fun. There was a competition aspect to it that kept me wanting to get back in there and like master my tests and make sure that I could speak Italian to the best of my ability. And I felt really accomplished. It felt good. And so whenever we learn new things, whether it's a new topic, a new instrument, a new language, a new personal skill, it's ways that we can just keep our brain new and young. The next component is, looking at your emotional wellness. And so this is really how we relate to our feelings, how we relate to other people, and how we show our vulnerability with those around us. And so two tools that you can use with this one. The first one is an emotional check-in. And I work with all of my clients and all of my patients to practice more emotional check-ins during the day. And it teaches us to, number one, identify our feelings, because honestly, a lot of kids can't identify their feelings, and you have to teach kids how to do it. But also, a lot of adults can't identify their feelings. So if I were to ask you, how are you doing today? Most people answer with, I'm doing okay, I'm doing fine, doing good. But that's not a feeling, and that's not really deep or, below the level. It's very superficial, that we need to be able to teach ourselves to answer that question honestly. So maybe asking yourself, how does it feel in my body today? Is my body a pleasant place to be? Do I feel joyful? Do I feel grateful? Is it an exhausting place to be? Am I tired? Am I agitated? Is it a sad place to be? Am I grieving something or someone? Or is it an angry place to be? I'm resentful about something, or I'm mad about something. But how does it feel to be inside of my body today? And typically you can feel it in places, regardless of whether it's happy, you might feel it in your heart. If you're fearful about something, you might feel it in your gut. Or if you're angry, you might clench your fists or feel it in your jaws. But we want to be able to identify these things. Another question is, maybe how does it feel to be in my heart today? And that's a very woo-woo type of question, but a lot of people who are very intuitive, they can feel into their heart space, and they can answer that question very authentically. The third question is, can we identify why? And so if I'm agitated today, what was it? So personally, I have two teenagers, and maybe I'm frustrated today because I took them to school and they fought the whole time in the back seat. That might be why I'm feeling agitated if I were to walk into my office. And so for you, how easy is it for you to identify the source of your feelings, much less the feeling itself? And if this is hard for you, then maybe this is one of the pillars we need to work on. The fourth question down there is asking yourself, what is the next best step? And so it takes the pressure off of having to say, what's the perfect step or what's the best step to take next? The next best step. And so that implies that there's a lot of steps we can take to get ourselves into an emotionally good place. However, we only need to be worrying about the next best step. And maybe if I'm feeling tired, the next best step is I need to lay down for a little bit. If I'm feeling agitated, maybe the next best step is I need to go get a snack. I'm hungry. And so teaching ourselves to think through and problem solve what is the next best step, it helps to teach us how to work through our emotions. And so on social media now, I'm sure you'll see lots of stuff about nervous system regulation or nervous system wellness. And I'm so glad that it's getting the attention. But the one thing that a lot of lessons don't identify or don't address whenever they talk about nervous system wellness is you have to feel your emotions. It's not just about identifying triggers and then quickly jumping to how do you make yourself feel better. It's sitting with the feelings and learning how to have resilience and feeling discomfort in the body, and letting anger take up space, letting sadness take up space, letting joy take up space. And if we can sit with these big emotions, then they become less scary, and we can teach ourselves that it's okay to have big emotions. And now I want to know, what's the next best step? The second tool that I want to introduce is just the idea of exploring your big emotions, staying curious. Let's take the emotion of anger for a moment. Many people have told me over the years that anger is a tough emotion for them to sit with. It's very uncomfortable. And when I talk about their childhood with them and I say, how was anger expressed in your house? It was expressed in one of two ways. Either there was a caretaker or a parent or an adult in their life or authority figure who used anger very aggressively. And so anger is associated with violence for them. It felt like anger was something that was done to them or lashed out in a way where they felt powerless. And so they don't want to do that to other people. So every time they feel anger, they push it down. Another thing that happens in childhood a lot is if you were punished for having big emotions. So let's say you were angry at something and you started yelling at your sibling or your parent, and you automatically were told, don't talk to me like that, go to your room. If you were taught that anger equals you're grounded or you're punished, kids learn that it's a bad emotion and they're not allowed to feel it. And so part of being adult is to going back to kind of unearth these things and say, it's safe to feel these things now. And if I don't feel them, they're going to just fester and take up space, really push down, and it's not going to help me or anyone that I'm in relationship with. So next, asking the next question, what is the lesson in this emotion? What is anger trying to teach me? What is grief trying to teach me? What is joy trying to teach me? Because all of our emotions are lessons if we listen to them. And then third, maybe asking, why does this emotion make me feel uncomfortable? And if I can identify, things that maybe were programmed as a child, I can look at it and stay curious and say, as an adult, I don't believe that anymore. And I'm going to allow myself to cry. I'm going to allow myself to, show frustration. I'm going to allow myself to be unapologetically happy if I am. And so exploring big emotions is a great way to undo some of the things that kids have to learn because they feel like they have to growing up. And then finally, our spiritual wellness. This particular pillar is really important because I put some words in here on purpose to make it sound religious based to show you that it doesn't have to necessarily mean church or organized religion because not everyone's comfortable with organized religion. If you are, fantastic. Keep doing that because that must fill you up. If you're not, that's okay. There's lots of ways to practice spirituality outside of a brick and mortar institution. And so the first pillar that we want to check in on is understanding that spirituality is about purpose and meaning. Why was I put on the earth? What gifts do I have to share with the world? And am I sharing those? And am I actualizing my best and highest self? And one of the ways I put as an example is being in nature. This can be a great spiritual experience where we can connect with the world at large. We can tap into the natural vibrations and energy of the world and the earth. And a lot of times we can meditate and put our feet in the ground, and that feels really grounding and connected. That we can spend time in nature to reflect, disconnect from our phones, and reconnect with our purpose and meaning. So if you do know what your purpose and meaning is, fantastic. If you don't, one tool that you can use is to explore, and you can Google and look this up, core values instruments. And if you can, identify what your core values are, these are great things to anchor to help remind you of what your purpose and meaning is. The second one is connectedness. And this part in spirituality reminds us that we're not isolated, we're not lonely, but we're part of a collective. We all bleed the same blood. Under x-rays, our bones look the same, and we are all of the human race. And when we start to view ourselves as separate, or us versus them, or me versus you, we start to lose that connectedness, and that's our spiritual connection. And so if we can tap back into how we're connected, this is how we be of service to each other. This is how we also learn to ask for help and be part of a community that gives help and receives help. And so I put down here examples of that are volunteering or doing service work to help connect with others, whether you're the recipient or the giver. This is ways that we stay connected and see that we're all one. The third piece over here is what are you doing to work on yourself and to make yourself the best self, the highest version of you that you can? And so I put some big words on here because I wanted to share that prayer and worship and devotion. These are all things that can be very personalized. And so if prayer for you is journaling or meditation or manifesting or affirmations, do it. If worship for you is creating art or singing or other forms of music, or just helping your fellow man or creating a craft that you're really good at, something that you can just share with others, do it. That's your form of worship. And these are all very common spiritual practices, both inside or outside of organized religion. And again, if spirituality to you means staying connected to your practice, do it. But this is all part of staying grounded and balanced in our spirituality. So check in. What are your spiritual practices? Have you investigated those? Can you articulate those? Or is this something that you feel like might be missing in your life? And this is a way that we can revisit those 4 pillars to say, how am I doing overall? So next, not only did we just talk about the physical pillar, the mental pillar, the emotional pillar, and the spiritual pillar, but we also checked in with those to say, how am I doing in these four? Is there any one of those four that jump out as something that I need to focus on or something to celebrate to say, this is a pillar that I do really, really, really well? And next, we can take that framework and say, how does it tie into holistic health? Well, as we mentioned at the beginning, holistic health is about the mind, body, and spirit connection. And so I wanted to highlight here that that mind body piece is very important because whenever we're listening to our body, it gives us information. And sometimes we either overlook it, we bypass it, or we don't even pay attention to it. But if we tap into that, our mind body connection can be very strong. So I put on here, for example, stress and anxiety can manifest as muscle tension, headaches, stomach issues. And for me personally, when I'm anxious, I can feel it in my gut. My stomach kind of hurts and food doesn't settle well. And I just feel kind of nauseous and uneasy. And that for me is when I listen to that and I say, what is that connected to? Maybe it's something I ate, but if it's not, it's probably connected to stress and anxiety because that's my tell. And so for you, what is yours? The opposite can be true as well, is when we adopt healthy habits like exercise, for example, or better sleep or better nutrition habits, this can drastically improve the way that we feel in our body and increase our mood, increase our energy. And so there are things that we can do that we control to really help that mind-body connection improve over time. And so I love this quote. It's by Ben Okri, and it says, the most authentic thing about us, so humans, us, is our capacity to create, to overcome, to endure, to transform, to love, and to be greater than our suffering. And so in order to do this, it requires self-awareness, and it requires us to thoughtfully and authentically assess ourselves to say what's going well, what's not going well, and then to know this is where I need to put my energy in order to create more balance because my mind, body, and my spirit are part of a system, and I have to treat them as a whole and not separate them and treat them as individuals. I'm a whole person. And so also attached to these courses, these four mini series as part of this series, I also wrote an ebook that I want to share with you, and it's called Practicing Mindfulness. And it's just chock full of basic practical things that you can do every day to increase mindfulness in your life so that you can show up better and be here now. And so I want to stop here and just thank you for joining me today. And if you didn't take anything away other than I want you to create balance in your life, but only you know what that balance is. So I'm not here to tell you what balance looks like for you. You got to figure it out on your own. But use these videos as guides, use my work as guides, use my words as guides, but ultimately check in and figure out how can I be my most balanced self today? Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in module 2.
Please be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to know when we upload a new video.